Well, I was hoping we didn't have to post this video, but here we are. So if you read the title, this doesn't mean that at the bottom of the description we're going to have a GoFundMe link or anything like that. We're not that type of broke, but what we are is project broke. If you guys saw my previous video working on the Joop Strangler here, we were building this thing to be an Ultra 4 race car to race King of the Hammers in 2025. And I'll go ahead and address the elephant in the room. It's not going to be ready in time. And for those of you who are sad and disappointed that I am not going to be racing King of the Hammers for 2025, don't worry, I'm just as disappointed. And most importantly, don't worry because of the fact that we will be racing some Ultra 4 races with this car throughout this year. As many of you guys know, the most famous Ultra 4 race is King of the Hammers, but it's one of the many that you can actually race, including a lot of other desert racing series that I do plan on racing this car in. But as I mentioned by the title, we're out of money, we're out of time. And although a lot of people would consider them excuses, I have a few reasons, is what I like to call them. Number one, if you've been watching the news lately, you have noticed the wildfires that broke out near LA. And although I can't go into grave detail about what I do for work, let's just say I am part of the first responders that had to deal with this situation and is still constantly dealing with this situation. And that has completely sucked away anytime I have had to work on this thing ever since you guys saw that last video. I do have some small things that I'm not going to show you that I have been working on because you're going to have to wait for the next episode to see those, but there's been a whole lot of nothing honestly getting done on this thing due to the time I have spent at work. Now, the other very big part of this is money, of course. I am obviously funding for myself to race King of the Hammers. I have a handful of brands that have worked with me, like Kenda Tire, and I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully I'm not disappointing too many of those guys, but I will still plan to use these tires in King of the Hammers 2026 and also any of the races that I do get into before King of the Hammers 2026. Also on the money, I do want to mention that this channel just finally became monetized thanks to you guys. And we are just about to hit 3,000 subscribers. So if you're new to this channel and might want to see more of this face here, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button because you won't regret it for what we have coming up. Now, enough talking about the bad things behind not racing King of the Hammers this year, and let's talk about the opportunities that this is going to open up for us on this YouTube channel and for this rig right here. Starting obviously with the Joop Strangler itself, a lot of people don't know what actually goes into passing race tech for something like King of the Hammers. There's a lot of little nitpicky things that will nickel and dime you to death, especially if you're doing it out of your own pocket like I am. And there's a lot of things that I was having to cut out of building this thing the way I want to be able to afford the parts that it's going to be required to pass race tech. And I'm actually getting this from my dad himself, the one that you guys saw working on my Jeep the last video, is I've already rebuilt this thing 3 times now. This is the 3rd or 4th time we've rebuilt it. And I want this to be the final time I have to make any major modifications to this rig. And I found myself cutting out a lot of things to preserve the small budget that I already had, to be able to afford the things like GPS, new seats, new wheels, things that I don't necessarily need to get this thing up and running the way I want it to, but I do need to pass race tech. So what I'm getting at is every dollar and every dime that is gonna go into the Joop Strangler here is gonna be to build it into the ultimate homemade budget Ultra 4 that you have ever seen. And by the time that we get around to worrying about race tech parts, we will have the budget and the time to meticulously check all of those boxes off the list without worrying about, are we putting something else more important functionally aside on this thing to meet that goal? Now, the other thing that it matters for this channel, every spare second and every spare cent that I have has gone into building this. What this opens us up for, especially with the new monetization on YouTube that I've received here, is the ability to bring in some different projects that I'm actually super excited about. If you think these YouTubers can think of some weird projects, just wait. I'm gonna blow your socks off, buddy. But seriously, I have some really big plans to come up with some really cool videos that I honestly would not be able to fund or dedicate enough time to because of trying to make it to King of the Hammers with this. I already have some trips planned with some other content creators that we have to start getting prepared for as soon as possible. I also want to mention that even though I am obviously a much smaller content creator on this platform, as you can see by the 3 camera setup I have today, I do not plan on letting my quality drop. If anything is posted on this channel, it will be the absolute highest quality that I can possibly muster up myself. After all, I'm basically an expert at it by now. I did about 15 minutes of Googling to get to where I'm at here. Now, for those of you that were excited to see the Joop Strangler series, do not worry. This is definitely not being put on the back burner by any means necessary. I still want this rig completely trail ready as soon as possible. And if anything, it will be more trail ready than if I were to actually take it to King of the Hammers. After all, the entry fee to King of the Hammers is $2,300. The amount of money that I would have put in just to get to the gate of King of the Hammers and possibly not even past tech can be a lot of parts that I can put into this project here. So this is just a short video to give you a little bit of insight on what I got going on the back end of things and to inform you that I have some really good stuff coming. So in the spirit of not wasting any of your time, I'll catch you on the next one.